Hello fam, welcome to another IELTS Masterclass series. This is a class for average students like me who struggles with everyday English but are determined to pass the test. You know, having written the IELTS for 8 times, I have mastered the technique, and in this IELTS series, I promise to let you get hold of what the examiners expect from you. I will give you simple guides, do's and don'ts to help you ace the exam. Today, we will be looking at IELTS Task 2. This is my favorite part of the whole IELTS exam because it has a fairly easy structure to follow. And if you're able to follow this structure, you'll be able to do well. After this whole IELTS series, I have already done a playlist where I'll put all the IELTS videos in there where you can just go and play all the videos. In today's video, I'll just introduce us to Task 2, what the examiners expect from us. I'll also give a simple plan to guide us to write IELTS Task 2 to get a band of 7 or higher. And you end by solving a question. So in the actual IELTS academic writing test, you have an hour to complete 2 questions, one for Task 1 and one for Task 2. The Task 1 is 20 minutes and you'll be asked to write Task 2 in 40 minutes. So you should expect to spend a little longer to practice on Task 2 than you did on Task 1. Whilst you shouldn't put yourself under too much pressure, it is a good idea to also set a time for yourself during your studies to keep track of your progress. You have to be able to write it under 30 minutes if possible because you need a little bit of speed to get this done. And also, when you are writing, you should make sure that your Task 2 are written in an academic style format. And when it comes to Task 2 question types, we have a lot. We have agree and disagree, which is mostly called opinion essays. We have advantages and disadvantages essays. We have causes and solutions. And we have discuss both sides. There can even be double question essays. We will look at them bit by bit, but today we'll be just looking at one question in our practice. And in Task 2, you are expected to write at least 250 words, and you should give reasons for your answer, and you have to include examples from your own knowledge and experience. So you have to support your response with these examples, which will boost your score. What we will do today is to explain all of these, but before then, let's look at what the examiners really expect from us. We have to know that in IELTS Task 2, we are marked under these terms. We are marked under task response, and this is where they want us to address all part of the questions asked. So you have to develop your position in an answer. You don't have to go wayward. If they ask you your opinion, you just have to state your opinion, and you have to make sure that you have fully extended and supported all your opinions with ideas and examples, because this is what the examiners want from you, and that is where you are marked under task response. You have to make sure that you haven't deviated. If you are asked to write an argument essay, just do that. If you are asked to give your opinion, just do. Another thing the examiners use to mark Task 2 is coherence. So what they mean by coherence is that you don't have to repeat too much words. You just have to use synonyms, antonyms. You just have to know how to manage your paragraphs well. You don't have to jam everything up. You just have to do it in a very neat and tidy way. Another thing the examiners marks us under is lexical resource. This is where they expect us to use a wide range of vocabulary. You have to be fluent, you have to be natural, and you have to show that you have sophisticated control of the English language. And even if there are errors, it's just only a one-off error and it shouldn't be a repeated error. The examiners expect you to use a wide range of sentences, simple sentences which contains one idea. They want you to use a compound sentence which contains 2 ideas. And they also expect you to use complex sentence which contains more than 2 ideas. The examiners will be expecting all these things from us. And when it comes to using complex sentence, you have to make sure that you use at least 4 to 5 of them in your essay, because these are sentences that show that you are able to use your sentences very well and you can adapt to complex sentences in your essay structure. Now, let's look at the last thing that the examiners take into consideration when marking our essay, and that is the grammatical range and vocabulary use. So they expect us to use all these vocabs. We have to use a lot of them. We have to show full flexibility, and we have to show that there are accuracy in these grammars. Just because you are expected to use grammar doesn't mean you just abuse them and use them wrongly. No, you have to show that there are minor slips even if there are errors. Now, these things are available on the British Council website and they have released it for the public to go through. I might leave a link of all these band descriptors in the description later for everyone to have a look. Now that we've looked at some of the stuff that the examiners expect from us, let's look at a simple structure we will use to solve task 2 questions. How should our essay structure look like? We are going to write it in 4 paragraphs as usual. We have to make sure we have an introduction and we have 2 body paragraphs and a conclusion. Now with the introduction, this is how you are going to write it. You just have to make sure you write a general statement, you paraphrase the question given, you give your opinion and outline of the main ideas. So this is what we are going to do. We will practice with a question later, so don't panic. And the next thing we will do is to set our body paragraph. So the body paragraph 1 and the body paragraph 2 structure is the same. So the body paragraph 1 should contain a topic sentence, then you explain your topic sentence, you give an example, and you give an outro, which is optional. But even though I say it's optional, it's really very important. And I'll show you why giving an outro in your body paragraphs is important. So this brings us to body paragraph 2, and the body paragraph 2 structure is just the same thing of body paragraph 1. Your topic sentence, you explain, you give an example, and you give an outro, and that is with your body paragraph 1 and 2. It's just the same thing. And your conclusion, which is the last paragraph, should just be a very simple one. It should summarize your main ideas and you give your opinion, and you can also give your suggestion at the end of your conclusion. If I mean to explain all of this in this video, it's going to be a much longer video, but you're going to look at a typical IELTS Task 2 question and you incorporate all of these structure into it, where we can able to practice on our own after this class. Now let's look at a typical IELTS Task 2 question. This is an advantage and disadvantage question. It says that online education is rapidly increasing in popularity. What has led to this development? What are the advantages and disadvantages of online learning compared to in-class instruction? Provide examples and explanation. Write at least 250 words, and they will add, give reasons for your answer and include relevant examples from your own knowledge or experience. And you are expected to write 250 words. The time allocated for task 2 questions is 40 minutes. Now, what do you do when you get a question like this? Do you start writing right away? No, you just have to plan ahead, because planning is the basis of all successful work. So you just have to use 5 to 7 minutes to organize your work, state your ideas before you write. Now let's answer this question by starting with our introduction. I stated that when you are writing your introduction, you just have to give a general statement. So the general statement can be anything about the main topic. You can just coin it up. It's easy for everyone to coin a general statement. So you just look at the question that is asked and you try to say something general about it in your introduction. Now, how am I going to do this? Now, let's see. Now, the question is, online education is rapidly increasing in popularity. What has led to this development? So this question is just about online education and technology. So you can just start with something simple like, certainly the revolution of online education is well underway worldwide. So this is just a brief general statement that I want to use for this case. You can also coin your own. You can just say online education is gaining popularity all over the world. So just try and say anything that comes to mind which relates to the topic. When the topic is talking about online education, you shouldn't be talking about something different which doesn't relate to online education. If you do that, you are just deviating from the question. Now, having stated your general statement, the next thing you have to do is to paraphrase the question. Now, let's do this in our next line. So what I will say is that how I want to paraphrase this question is that I will say modern technology, namely computer and the internet, has enabled billions of people to learn from the comfort of their homes, and this has a massive impact on our education system. So this is how I'm going to paraphrase this kind of question. Everyone has their own ways of doing it. You can also do it in your homes, and you can also try a few things and you will also reach the same ending. In my structure, I said that after giving your general statement and you have paraphrased the question, the next thing you have to do is to give your opinion. This is not compulsory, but it builds your word count. If you really want to increase your word count, you have to give your opinion, or you have to state your main ideas. One sentence can tell the examiner or everyone who is reading what the next point is about, what the whole body paragraph will be about. You can leave it in an outline. Let me just see how I stated mine. So I'll say that in this essay, I will discuss some of the negatives of remote learning, which are distractions and less socialization, while the main reason for visual pedagogies rise in popularity, or visual education rise in popularity, and its benefits are convenience, affordability, and diversity. So this is how I will write my introduction. You can also try your hands in a different way and we cannot arrive at the same answer. So once again, in your introduction, you are expected to give a general statement. This is not a general rule, but it really helps. You can write a general statement, you paraphrase the question, you give an outline. The outline means you're going to state your main idea. So you're going to state what you're going to say in your body paragraph. It's just a snippet of what the reader is expected to see in your body paragraph. It's just like a new broadcaster coming onto the television, starting the new session by giving the headline. That is what we do in the introduction. You give what the reader is expected to see in your body paragraph. That's what we are doing. After writing your introduction, the next thing we have to do is to write our body paragraphs. And as I said earlier, in our body paragraphs, we are expected to write our topic sentence. You explain our topic sentence, you give an example, and the last thing we will do is to give an outro. And we are going to do this next. Now let's see how I wrote my body paragraph. I started by saying 2 commonly observed deficits of learning from the comfort of our homes are plenty of computing stimuli that draw attention from our studies, as well as lack of interaction with our peers. So this is my body paragraph 1. This is my topic sentence. I'm trying to say that these are the drawbacks of learning in the comfort of your home. There are distractions from other places and other stimuli such as friends and family and so on. After giving your topic sentence like this, you just have to explain what you have said in this line. So the next thing that comes next is just an explanation, and that's where I explain that friends, family, and television, or even the smell of a home cooked meal can frequently distract home learners from their studies, and it is much easier to get up from a lesson and engage in interaction doing this whilst you are sitting in a physical classroom. So this is my explanation, and I went further to explain that furthermore, learners are not able to easily start a conversation and group work with their peers because they are often unavailable in time and space with virtual learning. So I was able to explain my topic sentence in 2 sentences, and now the next thing I will do is to give an example. And the example I'm going to give is going to be a real life example. So this is how I give my example. A prime example is when I was designing a business plan in an online class. I had to procrastinate and play football with friends instead of doing the work. I also couldn't present it on time due to poor communication among group members. Now, this is a typical real life story. Let's look at the outro. The outro is very important in paragraphs. Now, this is how I wrote my outro. However, these deficits of online learning can be managed, and there are many benefits to such method of study. So if you look at this outro, it is just a summary of what the paragraph is about. You know, if you have really studied IELTS reading, when we are asked to match headings to paragraphs, we always aim to read the first sentence and the last sentence. Why? Because we think that the first sentence and the last sentence summarizes what the whole paragraph is about. That is the same thing if you are a writer, you have to do for your reader. You have to make sure your last sentence summarizes whatever you have explained or whatever you have said in your paragraph, so that your reader will know that you are actually summarizing whatever you have said in the paragraph, and this makes it easier for them to understand. I hope you understand up to this end. Now let's look at our body paragraph 2. So in the body paragraph 2, you just have to make sure that you address the other part of the question. Now the question is an advantage and disadvantage essay, and we started by listing our disadvantage. You can also start by saying your advantages first and your disadvantage second. You can say your disadvantage in your second paragraph. It doesn't matter. You just have to make sure that you use the right words, the coherence, you answer the question. You do all of these for the examiner. Now let's look at how I started my body paragraph too. So I started by saying in contrast. So starting a sentence with in contrast means that I'm coming to say the opposite of what I've said before. And the examiners look at all these to mark our grammar. This makes the examiner know that we are able to use words in our own pace and we do it naturally, and we are able to contrast and use different words. I can start by saying the advantages of students opting for online courses is that, but I didn't say that. I just started by saying in contrast, which means that I'm coming to say the opposite of what I've already said. Now let's continue. In contrast, many students favor and opt for online courses because it saves time and money, and they can choose their educational path from a broad range of courses and teachers, and they can study anytime or anywhere. Now, this is my topic sentence. My topic sentence is trying to say that it is best for students to learn remotely because of the example that I gave. The next sentence should be an explanation of this topic sentence. Now, let's see how I explain this. Through distance learning, students do not need to spend hours each week commuting to school, and they can pick thousands of different courses taught by millions of teachers worldwide. Now, I further went on to explain that often many of these courses cost a fraction of in-class learning because there are significantly lower overhead costs. So this is my explanation. So after explaining in 2 sentences like this, the next thing you have to do is to give an example. Now let's see how I gave my example. This assertion was confirmed by a research conducted by a Ghanaian educational firm, KLB College, in 2022. Their findings reveal that studying through online saves students 47.5% of the cost compared to their counterparts that opted for online class tuition. If you look at this example that I gave, this is a research example. There are a lot of ways that you can give your example. I always prefer students to use a different range of example. In your body paragraph 1, you can talk about your real life experience as an example, and in your second body paragraph, instead of saying something about yourself again, you can also use a research conducted by an institution. And when you are giving reference to researches like this, you have to state the institution, the country, and the year that this research was done. This shows that you are able to express yourself in so many kinds of ways, and you are not just sticking to real life example which revolves around yourself. Let's look at what is expected of us in our conclusion. We are almost coming to the end of this class. So in our conclusion, what the examiners want from us is to restate our argument and strengthen it. We have to also add a take-home message. One thing we have to desist from doing in our conclusion is adding new points. Don't try to convince the examiner or the reader to add new points to your conclusion because it doesn't help. You'll be thinking that you want to try to convince the examiner the more by adding new ideas just to make the examiner believe what you are saying, but no, you are rather throwing the examiner off. You are rather confusing the examiner. Just stick to the plan. Restate what you said in your body paragraph 1 and your body paragraph 2. Bring them together in your conclusion. Give a take-home message or give what you think will happen in the future, and that is the way forward. Now, this can be done in 2 sentences or in 3 sentences. It shouldn't be more because it will make the whole thing boring. Now, let's look at a typical conclusion I gave for this question. In conclusion, although internet education can lack focus, so I have brought the idea in the body paragraph 1. I'm just trying to talk about the disadvantage in the body paragraph 1 that we talked about. So I just said that even though online education can cause lack of focus and interaction, its rise to stardom is fueled by its accessibility, cost, and variety. It is definitely an effective method of learning that is continuing to develop and helps propel humanity towards the next level of teaching. Now, what do you think about this essay that we just answered? What are your thoughts? Is it simple or is it difficult? This is just a simple structure that everyone can use, can do well in your task 2. You just have to make sure that your introduction is well on point, you give a general statement, you paraphrase the question, you can state your main ideas in there as well, then you can give an outro. This is simple. You just don't have to do much. Even though the grammar I'm saying looks a lot, it's just like 3 or 4 sentences. Then you come to your body paragraph 1 and 2, where you state your topic sentence, you explain again, you give an example in your real life situation, then you give an outro. Just look at how I did my outro. You can also do similar ones. Now your body paragraph 2, same thing, topic sentence, explanation. You give an example in a research format, and when you are given an example in a research format, make sure that you bring the country, the institution that is doing this research, and the year into play, because this also boosts the credibility of your research. I know that everyone can do up to this stage. Now let's look at a bit more hint that we have to try to do to help us to get the highest band score. Always make sure that you use 5 to 7 minutes, as I said earlier, to plan your exam. Just think of the ideas you are going to use. Think of the example that you'll be using for this kind of question. And during your practicing stage at your homes, make sure that you stick to the times that you want to finish the exam. Just time yourself. Try and write a lot of these examples. Practice as much as you can, and you'll be amazed at how much you can write this in 25 to 30 minutes, and you have a lot of time reserved for your task 1 exam. And also, do not forget to use linking devices, paraphrase words, use synonyms, use antonyms, and you are going to do well. So make sure that you incorporate all of this into your essay. We've come to the end of solving task 2 questions. I hope you were able to follow up to this stage and you have learned something new today. Even if you haven't learned anything new, just try to make sure that you do a lot of practice, and this is the way you can master the task 2 questions. Now we will solve more of these task 2 questions after we have done reading, listening, speaking, and all the other modules in IELTS. Now if you find this lecture useful, why don't you leave us a comment, hit the like button, and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video. Bye.